My stepdaughter, 18F, who still lives with my wife, 39F, and me, 36 meters, sent a random text to me saying, "Do you know how many times I've gotten off thinking about you?" Verbatim, when confronted, she says it was meant for someone else. My wife ultimately believes her, but should I? TL/Doctor, as the title says. This happened mid-morning a week ago when I was working from home as usual since the pandemic started, and my stepdaughter, who is a serious night owl/late riser and still lives with us while going to community college, was in her bedroom supposedly still asleep. Apparently not, though. My wife was working at her office, so it was just my stepdaughter and me home alone. After I saw the message, I almost immediately left the house to continue working from Starbucks, and then I told my wife about the message. That evening, my wife asked my stepdaughter about it, and she said that it was meant for someone else who she refused to identify. Until this incident, my stepdaughter had not mentioned that she currently had a boyfriend or significant other, so this someone else was news to us. After more Q&A, my wife ultimately believes her story. I'm not so sure, but maybe I'm being biased because the message was directed at me and seriously unsettled me. Nothing weird has happened since then, and all seems normal just as it was. I work from home, my wife works from her office, and my stepdaughter sleeps until like noon until she goes to class or does whatever. As a little more background regarding my apprehension, my stepdaughter has sometimes struggled, and still struggles, with male abandonment issues due to her father literally leaving never to be found again when she was 4 years old. I married my wife 10 years ago when my stepdaughter was 8 years old. A few times in junior high, my stepdaughter voiced curiosity about the specifics of, not only sex in general, but also my wife's and my sex life. Definitely awkward, but reasonable enough we supposed. Better her asking us what a blowjob is and whether it's better than regular sex, versus hearing it from kids at school. She also consistently compliments my personal self such as my hair, clothes, laugh, thoughtfulness, etc. Noticeably more than most children do of their parents, but she has always done that for as long as I can remember. She is very tech-savvy, observant, and astute, so I have an extremely hard time believing she sent that kind of super personal message by mistake. I'm not quite sure I'll ever be totally comfortable around my stepdaughter again, and I somewhat want her to move out so I don't feel constantly uncomfortable in my own house for the next 2 years. However, we can't afford for her to move out, and 2, my wife thinks asking her to move out is unreasonable because, again, she believes her. Lacking any evidence to the contrary, nor objectively observing that anything is amiss since then, should I just accept that this incident was a legitimate mistake? I feel like I should at this point, but I'd probably have a difficult time truly doing so since it was weird AF. I think the best play for you is to treat the text like it was meant for someone else, and let life go back to normal. But, you should keep an eye out for inappropriate behaviorist comments towards you so you can be ready to subtly shut her down before things escalate. I think the best thing for her is for you to continue to be the best father figure you can and show her the healthy boundaries of your relationship. Hopefully she knows she can't pull something like that again. I cannot tell you how many times I have texted embarrassing shit to the wrong people. The most recent one was when I was talking to my wife about my sobriety, clean for almost 5 years, whoop. But sent the text to my boss's wife, who is also my son's best friend's mum. Was mortified. She was great about it. I'm inclined to believe your stepdaughter in this case. She doesn't need to be in a relationship to desire someone. There are a million scenarios in which she wouldn't mention that person to you. Also, I have to say, your stepdaughter wasn't asking about your sex life. She was asking someone who has experience with sex. My daughter asked why people moan during sex when she started puberty puberty, that was awkward lol. She was just trying to figure stuff out. It does not mean she wanted to know what sex was like for you or your wife in particular. ETA, good on you and your wife for creating an environment where your stepdaughter felt comfortable asking you guys about things like that. It doesn't sound like she ever displayed any sexual behavior towards him before this. A kid asking about the birds and bees or complimenting "that's a nice shirt" is not akin to lustful behavior. If she's been secretly wanting sex from him, she certainly went from 0 to 100 saying something so graphic out of the blue. She could be flirting with a guy online or something she never felt the need to announce as her boyfriend. I would be mortified, especially because he and other commenters want to keep hounding her about it. I've sent texts to the wrong number and not realized it before. One time I texted my boss "I love you baby," because I thought I was in a text thread with just my GF. Now I always switch back to my thread with her so it doesn't accidentally happen again. What I'm saying is that it's entirely possible she inadvertently texted you. I am not trying to give advice, just point out that it does happen. I once sent my uncle a nude. I was texting him and my partner and just pressed reply and didn't see the name. Thank God I was close with his partner at the time and called her freaking out and she deleted it before he saw it, grimacing face, but yeah, possible. I was in the middle of sexting my GF at the time and accidentally sent it to a guy in the band I was in at the time. It was very graphic. This shit happens, man. Sometimes you're focused on other things and you don't pay full attention. At least, hopefully that's what it is in your case. If it's the other situation, what can you do? Ever speak to her again? Without some sort of evidence that it was actually intended for you, you could make things really traumatic in that house. I once accidentally sexted my brother instead of my boyfriend. So, horrifying mistakes like this do happen. My 28F family planned to skip my wedding because they hate the groom, 31 meters. I went to university as a mature student, started at 22. It took a few years between 6th form and uni because I had a baby, Teddy, currently 8 meters. In my second year of uni, when I was 23-24, I met Ryan, then 27 meters, who was hired as a lecturer. It was his first year of teaching anywhere, and I hated him at first. He was nervous and overcompensated by acting like a wanker, and I was not impressed. By my third, and final, year he eased up a lot and was genuinely nice. The turning point was when Teddy got sent home, and I emailed Ryan to say I'd be missing his lecture. He suggested I bring Teddy with me. He was only 4 at the time and very easily bored, and Ryan spent the lecture alternating between helping us and entertaining Teddy. Edit, to be clear, this was about 6 months of him acting like a wanker, and then a year and a bit of him being a genuinely great guy. This whole time, I was having regular phone calls with my parents. They noticed the shift from me ranting about Ryan every chance I got to singing his praises. A few months after I graduated, I ran into Ryan in a coffee shop, and invited him to sit with me and Teddy. We talked for a bit and I gave him my number. It was platonic for a few weeks, until he said that he hoped this wasn't too forward, but he'd asked a couple of hypothetical questions at the university and if I wanted to date, then we would be allowed. I told him it was very forward, so he was lucky he's cute. I didn't tell my parents we were dating until a few months in, which is also when Ryan officially told the university, and about 6 months after my graduation. We've now been together 2 years. We've been the butt of a few jokes, which we've been fine with, but my parents and siblings immediately came down hard on Ryan, due to how we met, and what I told them about Ryan throughout his first year of teaching. They also seemed to think that when I started being nice about him in 3rd year was when things began with us. We've made clear to everyone that he's not really a wanker, how the timeline works, and Ryan has done his best to impress them. They've even grilled Teddy over his feelings on Ryan, and tried to feed him answers. I have shut this down, but their feelings towards Ryan remain mostly negative. Ryan proposed at New Year's, with Teddy's help. I said yes. We're planning the wedding, and when I asked my mother for help out with the guest list regarding my family, she said not to bother as no one wants to come, including her, dad, and my siblings. The only person likely to come is my brother, 32 meters, but that's it for my whole extended family, solely because they don't like Ryan. Is there anything that can be done at this stage? Something we can do, on our end, to get them to come? Is this the point where I should just give up and tell the lot of them to F off? It sounds like you really had a lot of negative things to say about him right away. What were you saying to them? I've had professors that I didn't like, but I never complained about them enough that other people would remember anything. It's hard for people to forgive someone else for hurting a loved one even if he's different now, as you've said. If I was you, I wouldn't take my mother's word for it that everyone agrees with her, because people often pretend to agree to avoid an argument. Send the invites out regardless and make people decline themselves. Don't let your mother decline on their behalf. Of course, don't invite your mother because, 1, she's already said not to, and 2, then she won't know exactly when the invites are going out and she's less able to sabotage it by calling people and telling them not to go. You live your life. They will either come around or they won't. Okay, so how exactly did he act in his wanker phase? Elsewhere, Op said, I was not kind to Ryan early on. He went off early on about not accepting excuses or tolerating laziness. He expected us to email him if we missed a lecture, and when we did he sent snarky emails back, and he was very harsh with his assignment feedback, all of which I ranted to my parents about, as I felt he was on a power trip. However, it later became clear that he felt that, given his age and lack of experience, he had to come in very strong in order to get respect, and when we brought up our issues with him, he immediately dialed it way back. I guess there's 2 issues. Your family's issues with your partner, are they legitimate? I've seen a lot of inappropriate academic relationships. This one doesn't rate on the creepometer. Seriously. So they can really only resent him for being a professor you didn't like. I feel like it's very strange that their resentment outlived yours. What can you do about your wedding? Not much. You can tell your parents that you would really appreciate them coming, because it's a big deal for you. But they presumably already know that. This behavior is pretty weird. Do they just dislike him for the reasons you've described in this post? This is the sort of thing I'd expect with bigotry or real problems in your relationship. Any chance you left out that your family are a bunch of racists and Ryan's not one of their preferred colors? Or that whenever you're out together he abuses you or your son, and your family is concerned? Because those would make this make a lot more sense. Basically, the only way your family's conduct makes sense is if your partner is abusive, controlling, problematic, with you or your son, and you're somehow blind to it. Which can happen over a long relationship with power dynamics. I would sit down with one or both of your parents, just you and them, and ask them what their problem with Ryan is. Their refusal to attend the wedding is way beyond my daughter is marrying a jerk and I don't like him territory. Have you talked to or invited other members of your family, or are you just taking your mother at her word? My siblings, which is how I know only my brother will be attending, and I messaged dad but no response yet. My 15-year-old friend is dating an 11-year-old. It's so creepy. She has been my friend since 6th grade, the grade this boy is in. We're in 9th. We've already turned 15. He's turning 12 in August. This boy is like how you would imagine a 6th grader to be. Still wears neon green everything, laughs at funny content, dangerously immature, says sheesh at everything, etc. I have no idea what she sees in him. He is a fetus. My friend is a creep. My voice is 10x deeper than his. Every time I hang out with them, my brain cells are lost. He is 11, what the hell does he provide? Pokemon cards. He is falling victim to my predator of a friend.